Every couple of months, I see a discussion of which fandom is the best fandom. And every single time, fandoms would name a crazy thing they did as one of the most legendary things that happened in pop culture. And these legendary moments are almost always related to some kind of invasion of privacy. For example, Affinity magazine made a list of the One Direction fandom's most legendary moments, and all of the examples are interesting. But this is the fandom's number one moment, when Directioners hacked into airport and hotel security cameras just to watch the members of One Direction. And the fandom agrees that these are their most legendary moments. They are a hashtag Throwback Thursday. These are moments they are proud of. This is proof they invented fandom. It's moments like this that made them the most iconic fandom. And every time I see some kind of debate or discussion about which is the best fandom, it's usually a competition of which is the craziest fandom. I think it's because fandoms usually have the idea that the crazier the fandom acts, the bigger the fandom will be perceived. These type of fandoms are known to not only be extremely big, but also so crazy that they are considered some type of disease. It was the Beatlemania, the Justin Bieber fever, the One Direction infection. And as you can see, this negative image that media and the general public puts on big fandoms ends up convincing them to own their bad reputation, to even be proud of it. That was until the BTS fandom became the biggest fandom.
It's safe to say that ARMY are the most powerful fandom in the world. And the thing that brings them together? Their complete devotion to 7 men from South Korea and their unique message.
There is this common perception that the BTS ARMY and K-pop fandoms in general are extremely toxic. And the first problem I have with this idea is that BTS's fandom is being combined with a bunch of other fandoms that are not related to BTS. They are actually known to team up to compete against BTS's fandom. In reality, and generally speaking, ARMY reflects BTS's message, a message that K-pop groups, pop artists, and their fandoms lack. Of course, artists don't have to have a message, but BTS was socially conscious since their debut, leaving a clear impression on their fans and creating some kind of fandom etiquette. This fandom etiquette did not come as a list of rules that ARMY must follow. It was simply a consequence of the fandom understanding the message of BTS's music and their actions as people. Of course, I'm not saying that every single BTS fan is not toxic. There have been concerning invasion of privacy cases involving BTS. The difference is that this is not something the fandom celebrates. It's actually condemned and the exception to the rule. Actually, these toxic moments are talked about and called out within the fandom so much that it may feel like they happen all the time. But compared to other fandoms who encourage it and are proud of it, the BTS ARMY proves that they, maybe involuntarily, created a shift in fandom culture. ARMY is probably the first big fandom who doesn't want to be recognized as a mania or a fever or an infection, but just a group of people who not only practices respect, but also actually does productive things for BTS, each other, and the world. There is obviously going to be some toxic ones who don't represent the majority, but in the case of ARMY, the toxic side is microscopic compared to the majority non-toxic side. Just think about it. The BTS ARMY is bigger than every K-pop fandom combined. BTS's behind-the-scenes YouTube channel has 74 million subscribers. Their Instagram has 72 million followers. Their 2 Twitter accounts have around 50 million followers each, and their recent TikTok account has around 60 million followers. You can argue that not all of these people are going to be ARMY. Some can be casual listeners or curious people from the general public. Maybe you only want to count the 15 million fans dedicated enough to pay for the official BTS ARMY annual membership. Of course, this excludes a lot of dedicated ARMYs who are not able to pay for the membership or that won't get the benefits because of their location or other factors. But still, if you only want to count these 15 million fans paying for the membership, you won't see 15 million toxic BTS fans. That would be insanity. But even if, let's say, you come across 1,000 very toxic fans who are extremely loud, they would still be less than 0.01% of the fandom with the membership. But there are millions of others who are not, so the percentage is even less than that. My point is that the overwhelming majority of ARMYs represent a fandom that pop culture has never seen before. As a consequence of following BTS's message, the BTS ARMY not only rejects the stereotype of a crazy historical fandom, but also proves with actions that they are different. Here are only some of the examples that show how the BTS ARMY changed fandom culture. This is an unspoken rule about being an ARMY. Their personal lives are not of our concern. This is way more common with small or medium fandoms, but the very big fandoms that ruled pop culture, especially during the internet era, treated artists' personal information as facts every fan should know. I remember that back then, to call yourself a real fan of any mainstream artist, you will have to know everything about their personal lives. There were guides to know their parents' and siblings' names, information and other kind of details of the artist's personal lives. It was a thing that would come up on the popular "Are You a Real Fan?" quizzes. But in general, BTS's fandom doesn't really care and even condemns fans digging up their personal information. The only personal information we celebrate is their birthdays, but that's it. Most ARMYs don't know and don't care to know about the members' family members and their lives. If anything, ARMYs are more likely to say that real ARMYs need to know BTS's music and legendary key points of their story in the music industry. But ask the most ARMY of ARMYs how many siblings a certain member has, and you won't get an answer from them. Ask what are the names of the member's parents to an ARMY, and they will tell you that that's not public information. This is because the BTS members always protected the privacy of their non-famous friends and family members. So it's an unspoken rule that ARMY doesn't need to know about these details of their personal lives. You may think it's obvious to not care about these details. You may think it's obvious to prioritize the music over other things. But in the world of crazy big fandoms, ARMY normalized this big shift.
Another fan-led initiative was also outside Citi Field, handing out purple ribbon wristbands. They serve as reminders to concertgoers to be respectful to their fellow ARMYs.
One of the most uncontrollable moments for ARMY is when some fans, the paparazzi, and the general public go see BTS at airports or their private schedules. I still believe that by the size of the fandom, it can be even worse and more dangerous than what it already is. But there have been moments that really show how ARMY changed a part of fandom culture involving privacy and the artist's safety. For example, when BTS started getting massive worldwide popularity, it became extremely difficult for the BTS members to walk through airports, even with tons of security guards. So ARMY organized the Purple Ribbon Project, in which ARMYs in the front row form a barrier with purple ribbons to prevent BTS, other fans, and the airport staff from getting mobbed.
They got those purple ribbons for the security, so like they put all the way around us through in the airport and outside the airport and keep the security for us. Like they did it themselves.
This helped a lot with the chaos in 2018, but as the years passed, BTS became bigger and bigger.
It's like when they got to LAX, it was like the Beatles were here. I mean, your fans, it's really incredible.
So ARMY's mentality had to and did change. Now, ARMYs encourage others to simply not go to the airport or any other locations where BTS has private schedules. For example, in South Korea, every man has to serve in the military for 18 months. So whenever a famous singer or actor has their military entrance ceremony, fans will go see them, even if the celebrities ask them not to. However, during Jin's military entrance ceremony, he asked fans in an announcement to not visit him at his military entrance ceremony for his safety and the safety of other soldiers. So ARMYs listened and didn't go visit him. This is surprising because it's not only common but expected for fans to go to celebrities' military ceremonies. Of course, the paparazzi are the paparazzi. They didn't listen to Jin's announcement and went anyway, but they were surprised to go to the ceremony and not find the avalanche of fans they were expecting. And you can tell that the paparazzi were shocked from seeing a group of fans for the first time actually listening to the celebrities' wishes.
오지 말라고 했으니까 BTS 팬들이 질서 잘 지켜요. 공항에서도
다시 따라가나 보다. 다시 애들이 착하니까.
Again, this idea of not going to the airport or other public places where BTS has private schedules may sound obvious and common decency, but before ARMY started encouraging this, other big fandoms saw this type of mobbing as something to brag about. And if some fans told other fans to not go see their favorite artists at the airport, there would be a big entitled reaction. But now, the majority of ARMYs encourage others to give BTS their space, and there have been multiple occasions of ARMY accidentally finding the BTS members in different parts of the world and not saying anything until the BTS members are back in South Korea or post their travel pictures themselves. In return, BTS thanks every time ARMYs have pretended to not know them in public and have kept their location a secret. The BTS ARMY is probably the most self-organized fandom. There were times when concert venues were simply not ready for the magnitude of a BTS concert. Here are only two recent examples. When BTS performed at SoFi Stadium in LA in 2021, the organization from the staff was so bad that armies were still outside of the venue after the concert had already started. The fans had to do their own crowd control, despite asking the venue multiple times to increase safety measures. But the venue still had this bad organization for other future events where people got badly injured, making many believe that the reason why there were no serious injuries or accidents during the 4 BTS concerts was because of ARMY's self-organization. These 4 concerts were attended by 70,000 ARMYs in each day. BTS also had a one-day free concert in the city of Busan in South Korea in 2022. This concert was organized by the city, which received multiple complaints for their lack of organization and preparation for a free BTS concert. The only reason why the event was not a complete mess was because of BTS paying out of pocket for more safety measures.
아시아드 주경기장이나 부산 국제 락 페스티벌이 열리는 흠락 생태공원 등을 검토했지만 10만 명을 수용하려면 이곳이 가장 적절하다고 판단했습니다.
And ARMY being respectful to one another. BTS and ARMY's efforts for safety were recognized only after other massive festivity in South Korea was poorly organized by their city, only weeks after BTS's concert, leaving one of the biggest tragedies in the country. This type of lack of safety measures can be catastrophic. We saw them happening time and time again. This shouldn't be the public's full responsibility, but sadly, every time the venues are not prepared for a BTS concert, armies take it upon themselves to organize themselves and avoid tragedies. And you can see the fandom's mentality as a whole in the little details too. If you've been to any concert or sport event, you've probably noticed how common it is for the place to become a mess as the event ends. But at the majority of BTS concerts, you will find armies wearing masks out of respect for each other, even if it's not mandatory, using the fandom's light sticks to organize the after-concert traffic, and even leaving the trash organized. These kind of small forms of organization prove that the mentality of the great majority of armies is of respect, not only to the members of BTS, but also to each other. ARMY's respect for BTS and ARMY goes beyond the concern of privacy and safety. ARMYs are generous to each other. Small acts of generosity include armies giving each other freebies at concerts. These are hundreds of small gifts armies prepare for other armies for free, and it can include BTS photo cards, stickers, accessories, snacks, bottles of water, and masks. It's not a BTS concert without these type of gifts. But these are personal acts of generosity by each army. When armies form a fan-based association, they can do bigger projects like the Purple Ribbon Project. Different fan bases help armies understand different streaming platforms, music charts, BTS's history and discography. There are also organizations created by ARMY professionals that help guide and inform fans in anything related to medicine, law, engineering, and computer science. There are associations of ARMY tutors of courses like science, languages, math, social science, computer science, and art. All of these completely for free. There are also ARMY social media accounts that buy BTS's paid content and stream it for free or share download files so every single army can watch it, even if they cannot pay for it. This may sound like it's not beneficial to the armies paying for the content or to BTS, but there are still millions of fans buying the paid content and happy to see every army being able to access the paid content. And again, this collective generosity is simply a reflection of BTS's message and actions. There were times when BTS themselves watched unofficial streams on camera and even told armies watching unofficial streams that it was okay to do so. And this generosity by armies is not performative. It's part of the core of the fandom. Look at what happened in a hidden camera experiment. Someone left an unattended BTS merch table at a K-pop flea market, and instead of armies stealing the merch, they ended up paying more than the expected revenue and even donating their own merch to the table.
39,8,790원이 나왔어요. 아니 어떻게 34만 500원보다 더 나온 거예요?
현장에서 팬들이 직접 굿즈를 기부하신 분들도 있었대요. 우리 방탄소년단이 전 세계에 미치는 큰 가치만큼 우리 아미분들의 행동 또한 정말 멋있다는 생각이 드는데요.
BTS donated $1 million to Black Lives Matter, and the ARMY was like, yo, if they can do it, we can do it. And they came, like, fans who were already coming out of the pocket to support artists came out of pocket more to support charity. And this isn't the first time they've done this.
Finally, ARMY not only cares and respects each other and BTS, they also care about the world. You've probably heard about the one time BTS donated $1 million to Black Lives Matter, and ARMY matched their $1 million donation in 24 hours. But this type of actions happen all the time. ARMY is probably the first big fandom that made donating to charities and volunteering part of their mission.
They wanted to say thank you to me for something, and they organized something like charitable in my name. And part of me was like, why isn't everyone's fans doing this? Can you imagine if everyone's fans thanked them by organizing charity in their name?
ARMY has participated in thousands of charity projects around the world, including collecting trash, planting trees, donating food and clothes to shelters, and much, much more. When BTS had to cancel their entire Map of the Soul tour because of the COVID pandemic, many armies donated the money of their ticket refunds to COVID relief efforts and organizations. When concerts returned, tickets for BTS concerts sold out fast. So some armies who were not able to get tickets donated their ticket money to organizations helping Ukraine. Again, I'm not saying that ARMY doesn't have a toxic side. In a fandom this big, there will always be at least a small number of very loud toxic fans, but they are not the majority, not even close. There's this popular idea that the internet is full of these toxic armies, but I dare you to actually click on their accounts and read what they are actually saying about BTS. I assure you, the toxic fans you come across are not actual armies. They are troll accounts pretending to be ARMY just so people can hate on BTS and their fandom. Like I said, armies are not K-pop stans. Actually, K-pop stans and other fandoms team up to compete against ARMY. This has happened since ARMY became the most powerful fandom in 2017, and as a consequence, BTS became the most successful group. So if we compare ARMY to other global fandoms of similar magnitudes, I would say that ARMY is the fandom that has done the most good. ARMY is the first big fandom who constantly rejects the craziest stereotype from the media and the general public. ARMY goes far and beyond to protect BTS's privacy and personal space, more than any other big fandom. Armies hold each other accountable and look for ways to improve the fandom at all times. ARMY cares about each other's safety and is generous to each other and the world. That's how ARMY changed fandom culture. Being the most powerful fandom is not just about having a lot of crazy fans anymore. It's about being part of a productive community. It's more than just repeating a positive slogan. This is why I think the toxic stereotype of ARMY should disappear, because it's extremely misleading.
The ARMY are great. Also, they're so poorly represented in culture as these like fangirl, crazy, like mindless, and they're the opposite. They're like intelligent, they're funny, they're tasteful, they're charitable.
There has never been a fandom community like this, and the world should see it for what it actually is.